Everyone's going to have an opinion of LSU going into 2024. Like even your cousin Liam that hasn't watched college football since Urban Meyer was coaching at Utah will have an opinion of Brian Kelly going into year 3 with the Bayou Bengals. Some people will be sky high and they'll say, well, we added in Blake Baker and we added in some really good transfers at wide receiver, so we're going to run through the SEC and go to the college football playoff. And then there will be those people that will say, I hate Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is an awful human being. And even when he makes good points, because he's saying it, it's absolutely wrong. Therefore, LSU's going to stink. We all know those people. And then there's the middle ground where, yes, you added in Blake Baker. And yes, you added in some really good transfers. But you did lose a Heisman Trophy quarterback, several first-round wide receivers, and your schedule is a little bit more daunting. So there's going to be some question marks. And we are talking about X factors. So what is the X factor for LSU going into 2024? I'm going to break my rule and say it's not a player or a coach. It's a position group. Case in point, it's the offensive line. So what's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit subscribe, and the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of SECU, because we're talking college football every single day leading up to week 1 and well throughout the chaotic 2024 season. Make sure that also you're following us on all the social channels at SEC Unfiltered, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you want to follow me, I'm at Mr. Cole Thompson, both on my own YouTube channel and on social media, every single platform. Download the podcast version of the show. And to keep up with everything that we're talking about with the #1 conference, visit SECUnfiltered.com. This episode of SECU is brought to you by RHOBACK. Use the promo code SECU for 20% off all joggers, polos, hoodies, and shorts. SECU 20% off at RHOBACK.com. The offensive line is going to be the X factor for this team, and it kind of has to be. Because if, yes, you do have some good running backs that are up and coming, including John Emory coming back. Yes, you have a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that can throw the football a country mile like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite. And yes, you have some really good wide receivers. Kyron Lacy, I think, is going to blow up this year. I am so excited. By the way, anybody who says CJ Daniels is an underrated move, what are you talking about? CJ Daniels balled the hell out last year and would have been a starter for almost any other school in the country. And now he's going to be a starter in Baton Rouge. I don't think enough people are talking about Xavier Thomas. That is a dude that has elite track speed and elite vertical speed. And with that type of arm strength that you have in Garrett Nussmeier, he may be leading the team in touchdowns. I think the defense is a little bit questionable, but I'm not as concerned as other people out there. I get it. There's definitely some question marks, but to me, everything comes down to the offensive line. Jayden Daniels was arguably one of the biggest and best weapons in the history of the sport. Like, he averaged more yards than Cam Newton did in his season that he won the Heisman. Go actually look that up. That's mind-boggling to me. He was number 1 or number 2 in rushing in the SEC last year for a quarterback. Oh, and on top of all that, he also threw for over 3,600 yards. He's one of a handful of players that can say, I threw for 3,500 yards and rushed for 1,000 yards in a season. Award now, please. Like, I love Michael Penix. I loved Bo Nix. I thought both of them were deserving of being in New York City. But the Heisman Trophy belonged to Jayden Daniels. But also, when you get rid of a Heisman Trophy winner, what does that do? Leaves some question marks. And when you get rid of a dual threat playmaker that has transformed your entire persona and got you to back-to-back 10-win seasons, it changes your persona of college football. Like, it literally changes your entire offensive approach. So the offensive line is going to have to be the difference maker. They got dudes. I mean, I'm talking about dudes. Will Campbell, in my opinion, best player in college football. I don't care if you're talking about just player, offensive lineman, offensive playmaker. No, just straight up best player in college football. That is an elite playmaker at a blindside spot that came on into the toughest conference in college football and has given up 1 sack in 2 years, 3 pressures during that span. He also was a great leader in that locker room. Then you look on the other side, you have Emory Jones. And if Will Campbell is number 3 in the NFL draft in 2025, Emory Jones is pick number 15. That's the separation between these two. There's not much. This is the best tackle duo in the country. And I don't think that there's an argument for second place right now. Nobody's even coming close to touching a flame to what resides at Tiger Stadium on Saturdays. That's not it at all. They also bring back Miles Frazier. They also bring back Garrett Dellinger. The only new player that they're introducing is DJ Chester. That's a redshirt freshman who did get to be a part of the system last year. So the center is one of the most important parts of the offensive line. That's a given. But everybody else can pick up the slack for Chester while he gets acclimated. And I mean everybody. Frazier, Campbell, Jones, Dellinger, doesn't matter. They all can coexist to where they're now giving protection for Garrett Nussmeier because they have the personnel to be really good. Whether or not you want to go ahead and say the defense is going to be elite, I don't think so. I think if it can be top 50, this is a team that can go deep in the playoff. If it can go top 75, top 70, they can be a playoff team, maybe losing the first round, but still be a playoff team. But if they have an offense, and this is what it all comes down to, if they have an offense that is given time to open up running lanes in the backfield, to create opportunities in the open field for gains of 4, gains of 6, gains of 8, if they give Garrett Nussmeier time to look throughout his progression and then finally reach a CJ Daniels, reach a Xavier Thomas, reach a Kyron Lacey, reach a tight end, go do a pitch out of the backfield, they give him time. Well, then a lot of these games that you're talking about right now could eventually lead to you having some success because you're not going to have a mobile playmaker like Jayden Daniels that's going to be able just to create magic. So you got to have protection. You got to be able to protect your running back. You got to be able to protect your quarterback. You got to be able to protect your wide receivers down the field that can get open for your quarterback. You got to be able to protect your tight end that's going to be able to get open across the middle. You got to be able to add in that second wind against these great defensive lines that are going to try to take the head off of number 13 and make him unlucky. That's what you're going to have to do. And so for me, when I look right now at this LSU squad, the thing that stands out, a veteran offensive line, I can't count them out because of that. And this offensive line is the X factor. They stay healthy. They stay consistent. You get Chester up to speed. He's actually now right alongside Frazier and Dellinger and not making any mistake whatsoever. I mean, I look at this squad and I say, why not 10 wins? Brian Kelly's done this before. He did this year one when he came to the SEC. Like, people kind of forget about that. He lost everything. He gets to keep Emory Jones and Will Campbell as part of his culture. NIL did a big part of that, not going to lie. But let's be real. They stuck around and they won 10 games in year one. And this roster has a lot of question marks. Coaching is not one. Coaching staff is far from one. Offensively, the line is great, and they have the personnel that can be potent. You got like 3 question marks going into this year, and all could be solved before you ever have a major game against Ole Miss, against Alabama. You may know what you are as a program before October. And at that point, why wouldn't you consider LSU to be in that conversation of top 10 teams? Like, at the end of the day, I don't believe that the term Cinderella is going to exist in a 12-team playoff because of it can't. And the reason it can is because of you're going to see that 11 squad pull up, that underdog story, and they're going to unveil the mask, and it's LSU, it's Tennessee, it's Alabama, it's Penn State, it's Michigan, it's these rosters that we talk about that usually were good enough to be on the outside looking in and make a case to be a top 10 team, but weren't. Now they're in the playoffs, so there is no Cinderella team. The thing is that if this offensive line does its job, I'm not sure that we're talking about LSU as Cinderella. If anything, we're talking about LSU as a legit threat to go and make some noise throughout the postseason. And if they do that, Brian Kelly may be owed a lot of apologies by many people that, including watch this channel all the time. But let me know in the comment section down below, who is the X factor for LSU going into 2024? Is it Garrett Nussmeier? Is it Brian Kelly? Is it the offensive line? Like I said, like, rate, review, subscribe, download the podcast version of the show. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. If you want to follow me, call me out on Twitter on my own YouTube channel. It's at Mr. Cole Thompson. And to keep up with our daily content every single day surrounding your favorite conference, visit us at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, LSU fans and SEC faithful, I'm Cole Thompson. Peace.